Even though A Long Weekend is seemingly visual effects free, deleted scenes included, I did about 75 visual effects shots for A Long Weekend. In comparison, my sci-fi short film Trial 47 had only 65. The one visual effects shot I get the most questions about is the time lapse of the clock. I do this by having a still shot of the clock, then I paint out the hands of the clock, which is a tedious task, and then I bring the hands back in by masking around each hand individually so that I can control the rotation of it. Then I have to make a fake shadow for the hands. That's done by duplicating the hand and then making the hand behind it pitch black, add some blur, and turn down the opacity, and it looks like a shadow. I pair this to move with the hands of the clock. Then it's time for animation. Then I play around with the rotation, messing around with it until I get a speed that I like, making sure that the hands act as a normal clock, with the second hand making one full rotation every time the minute hand moves one notch. When the clock stops, I animate the second hand to move like this. Clocks don't exactly stop perfectly still like this. They over-rotate just a little bit before popping back up, so I would have one frame where it dips down just a little bit too far, then comes back up. Then, of course, mix it with sound effects of an actual clock. Then, while it's speeding, put in some sound effects of an egg timer sped up. Then, when I have a similar shot later in the evening, it was just the same After Effects project, just animated the hands a bit differently, and color graded it to look like night. Very often I used split screen to enhance the performances of the actors. What that means is if one character nails their performance on the second take, but the other actor does a lot better on the fourth take, then I can grab their best performances from both takes and cut the shot in half and put them together. This was especially necessary when working with kids because very often one kid would be playing Jungle Gym while the other was actually acting, and if you try too hard to get both of them going right at the same time, going, you do this, you do this, you do this, no, stop doing that, do this, then the kids just get discouraged and you don't get anywhere with the shots. In those situations, split screen visual effects are a necessity. This wasn't always a simple task, as the camera wasn't always perfectly still on a tripod. There were times where I was getting the shot so fast that I just had to hold the camera as still as I possibly could, and then, in post, stabilize both of those shots individually, so they're not both rocking like this and you can see the split down the middle. A similar trick I used with sound editing, when an actor visually nails their performance on, say, take 3, and their delivery of the line is better on take 5, then I can take the audio from take 5 and put it under the video on take 3. This way I'm able to grab all the greatest actors' performances from the different takes and combine them all to make the ultimate performance. There was one scene where we needed to use a little bit of green screen. We were shooting at 2 different locations. One of them was a friend's house, the other was my own house. And when we got to the parts with my house, there's a scene where Ellie walks down the hallway, and the hallway doesn't exist. You could see my kitchen in the background. The only way to fix this practically would be to make our own fake wall to put up, but we couldn't do that because I made this for no money. Now, while simply putting up a green screen is easy, making convincing green screen is hard. Since the actress was wearing green, I used the blue screen, and then put tape X's as tracking dots so I could track the motion of the shot, and we had a severe lighting problem. Lighting a green screen properly is what makes it easy to key out, but in this situation, if we moved it too far back, it would be too far away to even make it worthwhile, and when it was any closer, we couldn't get it lit properly, so I had a lighting problem that I needed to fix with rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is where we draw a mask around the character and animate that mask frame by frame. Fortunately, half the blue screen was lit well enough to be able to use it for her arm, but the rest all had to be rotoscoping. Then for the background, I take a still shot of the wall, and then I put that in its own composition, made one side a bit brighter than the other to give it that look of light coming in from one angle. Then I made the shadow for the actor by taking her rotoscoped shot, turning it all the way black, turning up the blur, then turning down the opacity, then animating it with her movement. Then I 3D tracked the motion of the camera using those dots I had on the blue screen, positioned the wall correctly, and we had our shot, which took at least 6 hours to do. I needed to use the same rotoscoping techniques for a shot a bit earlier where she first comes into that location.
Hey guys, you want to watch a movie? Yeah!
Anytime you see a screen in this movie, I had to digitally paste in what is on the screen. As much as I would have liked to do this for real, I didn't have any time in pre-production to be able to make the assets that are shown on the screens. I only had about 2 weeks of consistent pre-production, so I had to devote all that time to stuff that characters actually hold, such as homework assignments, so anything that could be saved for post was. Every assignment she has is an actual homework assignment I have had in the past that I just scanned and then photoshopped to make it the way I wanted it to be for this movie. Even the Lord of the Flies character analysis assignment she has in the movie is an assignment I actually did in high school. Then I rewrote it to include every mistake that I knew would drive English teachers crazy, to further show that she's a lazy character who doesn't put much effort into her work. Of course, I would always put dots on the iPhone and computer so that any time it moved, I could track the motion with it. Usually I like to have something white on the screen so that simulates the way the light would look. Some would put green or blue on the screen so that it's easier to remove. However, I have noticed that putting green or blue on the screen then shines green and blue light onto the actor, which makes it very noticeable it's a special effect. Additionally, the MacBook Air we were using was broken, so I had no other choice but to rotoscope whenever a character moved in front of a screen. I also have to adjust the color on the digital screen to match the color of the environment. For the night scenes, that meant tinting it more towards orange, also simulating the grain of the environment around it, and adding blur whenever it's in the background out of focus. There was one continuity mistake that needed to be fixed with visual effects.
But it's only...
bedtime?
I didn't notice things like this until I went into editing and went, that cut looks rather jarring. What's going on with the crap? It's because I told the actor to put it in the wrong hand. First, I have to paint out her hand and her phone from the shot, and I do this by going back to earlier on in the shot before her hand entered the frame, grabbing a still frame of that, and then pasting it on top of where her hand was to make it look like her hand and phone disappeared, then tracking the motion of that still frame to the shot so that the clean plate, as we call it, moves with the shot. Then to put her hand in the right position, I have to rotoscope around her hand and the phone, again, frame by frame. Once I have my rotoscoped shot of her hand and phone, I flip it around, then track the motion of that to the shot so that moves with the shot, and we have a fixed continuity mistake.
Bedtime?
In the shot where Ellie hands Katie a box of crayons, the actress for Ellie did her best performance in a take where my little sister, who plays Katie, turned around and walked back into the shot before she had completely exited the frame. I did another take of this, which didn't look quite as good, but just had to keep moving on because the more time you spend making kids redo the same shot over and over, they get discouraged, and when they get discouraged, they want to quit. As soon as my sister stops to turn around, the shot then turns into a clean plate where I painted out her walking all the way out, and then animate a still frame that I rotoscoped, and then animated the legs individually with the still frame I had of her. And then I also painted out all the stuff that was in the TV. And then we have this shot. Looking back, I should have just done another take, but I was more concerned with getting the kids while they were actually happy and in their best mood. I also frequently use digital stabilization to get really smooth shots. I shot this with my gimbal, which is an electronic camera stabilizer. There are still little imperfections at times that need to be corrected by using warp stabilizer in After Effects. I usually do not like the handheld look, and I use it very, very sparingly so that the few times I do use it, it is powerful. The few times I did use the handheld look on this film is the scene where she's making the kids clean up their room, and the shot where she thinks she's lost the kids. Since the rest of the film is shot smooth, those few moments feel particularly chaotic by using handheld. The takeaway from this video is, every film has visual effects, whether we notice them or not. The sad part of a visual effects artist's work is that their job is to make people believe they don't exist. A moment of silence for visual effects artists around the world. And now on to sound effects. My friend Daniel Lloyd, who served as a boom operator on this film, and I recorded at least 110 sound effects for this 12-minute film. Most of these were sounds that you would expect a boom mic to be able to pick up on set, but doesn't. Sounds like the scruff of Katie leaving a chair. Katie eating ice cream. And just about every walking noise you hear all has to be a sound effect. All those sounds are so quiet that a boom mic that's pointed up here doesn't hear them very well because it's meant to be pointed at the mouth for their voice, not at their feet. And then if you bring up the audio levels to where you can hear that, it has a lot of background noise. So to get clean, clear audio, we need to record a lot of sound effects. We also had to do what's called ADR, Automated Dialogue Replacement, Whenever there was too much background noise to be able to remove it efficiently with a denoiser effect, we would have the actor come back in, watch the shot on the computer, and then re-deliver their line the exact same way they did on set in that shot.
Come on. Come on.
This effect is actually quite common. It's used on every film we've ever seen. There were some areas where we needed to redo all the sound entirely. In the shot where Ellie is running through the hall, there was a dog yapping in one of the back rooms. Mom's home!
Mommy!
And since we need to keep moving, there's no time to wait for him to stop. We needed to re-record the sounds of her running, her sigh, and the sound of her sliding down the wall, and all the other sound effects we probably would have needed to record as sound effects anyway. Sounds of the mom fiddling around with the lock, and the sound of mom saying, "I'm home!"
We're home! Hello? Mommy's home! Hey! How are you?
Likewise for the shot immediately after that, since the shot was so wide we couldn't get the boom close in enough to get clean audio.
Okay, come on, let's go to bed. I know, let's go, come on.
Everything there was re-recorded as a sound effect and as ADR. All that included the sounds of the kids playing with the puzzle, Katie talking, the sounds of the individual types of shoes and feet walking, and the sounds of typing.
This one. I think you have to put it there.
Okay, let's go to bed.
We're not done yet.
I know. Come on, let's go.
Every film we've ever seen has several visual effects and sound effects that we don't notice, and aren't supposed to notice. Little details like these are what add to the movie-going experience in ways that we couldn't tell unless we saw the original rough edit. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.